What's important to me? First off is something that's going to be strong, something that's going to protect my family. Home is shelter. Home is more than just a pretty picture in a book. It is your shelter. So you need something that's going to protect you. So you need something that's strong. You want something that's going to last. You want something that's that's not going to decay. And oak homes have been proven to last for hundreds of years when they weren't taken care of. Oak really checks all those boxes when you're looking for what you want to build your home out of. I'm Lynn Gastineau.
And I'm Ben Poe.
And this is the Acorn and Leaf Podcast. Ben, I heard that you had some questions about wood species and why we build with oak log homes.
Yeah, so let me just go ahead and come off the record and just say that I am not anybody who has a deep understanding of log home living or things like that, but it has always been an interest of mine. So I have this like kind of high fantasy of forests and pines and just mountains and cold and fireplace with coffee and a Pendleton blanket. The list goes on and on. Playing the acoustic guitar to my girlfriend and singing John Mayer. We could talk all day about this, but I love the idea of log homes. And I also know that they come with a bunch of different type of wood species, right? So I see a lot of people use pine. I see a lot of people use cypress or maybe cedar. But I heard that, Gastineau really specializes and emphasizes on the oak aspect of it, which you don't see a whole lot of in other industries. So I was curious, why is it that you guys decide to use oak, or you really push for oak above everything else?
Well, the reason that we feel like the oak is a premier wood to use is a multifaceted reason. The old log homes, as they were built and people settled across the United States, anytime they had the oak available, they would always choose oak. And because the people knew, as we know today, that oak is much more durable and naturally resistant to insects. Back then they didn't have all these chemicals that you could put on wood to make it treated in order to make stuff and to last in the weather and last for years. So they used wood species that were. So traditionally, that is the wood species that has lasted the most. If you see a TV show where they're taking a 150 or 200-year-old log home and they're tearing it down and going to rebuild it into a new house, 90% of the time it's an oak house because they're the ones that have been able to withstand Mother Nature all these years without chemicals.
Yeah, so you had me at insects because I hate bugs. I'm from the Pacific Northwest, we don't have humidity out there, and so when I moved to Missouri years ago, I saw a moth that was as big as my face and freaked out because I've never seen anything like that. So when we're talking about insects specifically, we're talking about wood damaging insects and things like termites and
we're not talking about the bugs that you see around on your yard. We're talking about the insects that can get in the wood and cause damage.
So just they won't repel all insects. No. Oh, then sign me out. That's incredible.
This is some wood species that they literally have to put the wood into kilns and raise the temperature over 176 degrees for over 26 minutes, I think it is, in order to kill the bugs that live inside of the wood.
Wow.
Oak is a wood that does not require that. The bugs don't live in oak trees. So you might have a bug under the bark of an oak tree after it falls on the ground, but bugs don't live in oak trees the way they do pine trees.
Got it. Wow, that's interesting. So apart from insects alone, I'm sure oak has some other reasons, for...
Oak is one of the strongest woods there is. And if you, again, going back to history... in the oldest known wood structure in the world is made out of oak. And also, you realize that Christopher Columbus sailed the blues in the
1492.
for 1492. He was in an oak ship.
Oh, wow.
All those ships were made out of oak. Because the cooperage of the oak made the boat not leak, which is pretty important.
Yeah.
And so anyway, there's a lot of characteristics about oak, and it's all because for the tannins that are in the wood. Without it getting into the real scientific discussion, which I'd be happy to do if you wanted to hear it, is that the tannins that are in the stay in wood in oak forever are what creates it to have these characteristics and what gives it this natural resistance to decay and insects and this sort of thing.
Interesting. Okay, so we have, the insect aspect of it. We also have kind of like the strength and the durability of the wood alone, and it's from a historical standpoint, like people have been using it for years, right?
Yes.
So like, why not? So I've heard everybody at Gastineau use the word legacy, and it sounds like it's truly built for legends. So whether it's a house or a ship, it's going to last for eons and eons. So
if you think about a log home, here's my thing. If I'm trying to decide what to build my home out of, what's important to me? First off is something that's going to be strong, something that's going to protect my family. Home is shelter. Home is more than just a pretty picture in a book. It is your shelter. So you need something that's going to protect you. So you need something that's strong. You want something that's going to last. You want something that's that's not going to decay. And oak homes have been proven to last for hundreds of years when they weren't taken care of. Mm-hmm. So they'll last for a lot longer than that if they're properly taken care of. And then you want something that's beautiful. Yeah. And oak wood is gorgeous. I mean, it's a beautiful wood. No two logs are exactly alike. They all have unique knots and grain patterns, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful wood. The other thing is it's very easy to maintain. Oak is easier to maintain than softwoods for multiple reasons, but there's typically less maintenance involved in oak. For example, one of the things that's the most prominent is if you're building a pine log home, they recommend that you put borates on the outside every 1 to 2 years. Which is quite a bit of exterior maintenance that you don't have in an oak log home because you don't need borates on an oak log home. So you can completely miss that whole step. But anyway, the oak really checks all those boxes when you're looking for what you want to build your home out of.
Sure. Something else that I've been thinking about too during this conversation is like the moisture aspect. Should there be a concern about like the amount of moisture that's within oak in comparison to like other wood species or something like that?
All wood species start with the same amount of moisture. Okay. The difference is that oak does not dry out to as low a moisture content as what pine does. If you would test a pine log home and test the moisture content in it, that's say it's 10 years old, that moisture content is going to be much higher than it would be in an oak house. This all goes back to the cellular structure of the wood. Oak is a very small cellular structure. Pine is a very big cell structure. So pine, the moisture is going to vary greatly from one season to the next. The pine will actually shrink and swell because it absorbs moisture into those cells, and then the moisture leaves and it absorbs. And with oak, it doesn't do that. The oak cellular structure is very small, and you don't get shrinking and swelling with oak that you do with softwoods.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a ton of sense too. So surely though, like with the amount of durability, the amount of strength, the amount of just like sheer grit of oak, and in comparison to other woods, like I'm assuming it's a very heavy log. When it comes to like you had mentioned maintenance earlier. Let's say like I have people come over and they build my oak log home, right? And it's like it requires several of them. Maintenance on my side, what would that look like as far as if something goes wrong with this oak log? Am I going to be able to do something about taking care of it and making sure that it's patched up properly? Or is it one of those where it's kind of like one and done and I always need help because it's such a strong piece of wood?
First off, oak is a heavy wood. And, if anybody's picked up a piece of pine trim and a piece of oak trim, you know that no matter how dry it is or whatever, oak is always going to be heavier. And that's because the tannins that are in the wood. Whenever you're building the house, that is something that the person that's picking the logs up is going to say, these are very heavy logs. But my answer is always, I do not want a light house. I want a heavy house. I want a substantial house. I don't want something that is going to blow away. I want something that's heavy and substantial. So that is one thing about oak. It is very heavy. But that's not necessarily caused by the moisture in the wood. That's caused by, again, by those tannins. Those tannins that don't leave, that is what causes it to be heavy. But as far as restoration on a house, that's one of the things that we have noticed greatly. An oak log home, if there is some kind of an issue with decay, it is something that's very easily fixed compared to pine houses. Pine will typically decay very quickly. Oak is going to take a long, long time. And I've seen people that have done some really dumb things with their house where they have either let vines grow up the side of the house, or they didn't put gutters on, or something like that has caused damage for the house. And the oak stands up to that damage way better than what a pine house would.
That's interesting. What about, I'm sure a lot of people have questions about, flammability, or is it going to catch on fire easily? Like if I'm lighting my pipe, because again, I told you I have a high fantasy on what this looks like. If I'm lighting a pipe and I have a glass of whiskey in my hands and one of my little, ashes out of my pipe bowl falls onto the floor, is the whole house going to flame up?
Yeah. Well, now this, let me, instead of answering that question, let me give you a demonstration. If you go out and you're camping and you're going to start a fire, what do you start the fire with?
A match.
And what do you catch on fire though? What do you put on fire? You put on fire. You get something like pine, something that's going to burn quickly. I
see where you're going with
that
this.
is going to ignite quickly. What do we build stick houses out of? Frame houses are built out of little pieces of pine. And then after you have your fire started, what do you put on to burn slowly? There's where you want to put on your oak logs on your fire that are some hardwood that's going to burn very slowly, because a pine is going to burn up very, very quickly. So, a log home, any log home, is way safer as far as a fire hazard than any frame home, because in a frame home, the spaces between the 2x4s or 2x6s actually work like a chimney and feed oxygen to the fire. Whereas in a log home, it's got to burn all the way through before that wall is going to collapse. And then an oak home is even better than the pine, because the pine is going to burn much faster what the oak is. But actually, our 8-inch logs will pass code as a firewall. So like a wall between a house and garage, it has to be a firewall. A log wall will pass as a firewall. So that shows the durability of a log wall able to withstand fire.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes total sense. And so, I'm even sure, when it comes to just the durability, how dense oak is in comparison to others and stuff like that, like hardwoods versus softwood type of situation, I can see why oak is probably more safe. Like if we're going down longevity, if we're going down fire hazard, if we're going down just natural disasters or things like that, you probably want to use oak in comparison to something like pine. However, we still do offer all four, which is so intriguing to me. And what is the case of that? And it's like, maybe we should let me know why I think we have some other options for people who might not want to go down the oak route. Like, what's the benefit of cypress or cedar?
Well, these are custom homes. Yeah. And although I can tell each one of our customers the pros and cons of the different wood species, and it's their decision. This is your home. I'm not going to tell anybody this is the only way there is to build. You have to make that decision yourself. But I can tell you the pros and cons of all four. And the thing is that we're the only company that can tell you will tell you the pros and cons of all four, because we offer all four. Mm-hmm. If you go to a company that is all they sell is pine, they're going to tell you that pine is the best thing to build with. They're not going to explain it to you. We sell all four wood species, and we sell them. We sell cypress, we sell cedar, we sell pine every once in a while. Most of the people choose oak, but But if they really want to do pine for, like, maybe they're building it themselves and they think that, well, it could be too heavy to lift, we can still give them the same quality of the way that we manufacture our logs, those sealants that we put between our logs. We can give you a better pine house than you can get someplace else. But the reason people ask us all the time, well, why don't other people offer oak? Well, it's two reasons. First off, we're situated in central Missouri. And here in central Missouri, we have access to all of the Missouri forests. And here in Missouri, we're actually growing almost 5 times more oak every year than what we're cutting. And what's unique about this area is that our oak logs are typically a smaller diameter log. We don't have wood that is really conducive to, like, making furniture. It's got more limbs and branches, and in furniture and in cabinets, they typically want clear wood without knots. So basically, the oak here is not as expensive as what it is in other parts. In a log home, we don't want clear logs. We want knots. We want all those defects that the other people call defects. To us, they're beautiful. And so it's the oak here is just much less expensive. I couldn't do this and be cost competitive if we were located in Pennsylvania or Wisconsin or someplace where there's also a lot of hardwood forests. The other thing is, and why nobody else does it, is that our mill is built to cut oak. Oak is heavy. Oak is requires a lot more sharpening and knives. The equipment, all the rollers and everything have to be made in order to cut oak. Most of the companies are set to cut pine, and if you have to try to cut an oak house out of it, it would literally tear up their equipment.
Oh, wow.
So we are probably the only company that I know of that is capable of cutting all 4 woods, because we have the manufacturing equipment to do that. I don't know of anybody else that does. So although other companies may like to be able to offer oak, they can't because they can't cut it.
That's fascinating. That is fascinating. So the idea of oak using heavy machinery to be able to cut all of that, just not oak alone, but like all other species of wood, like we have the capability of doing that. The amount of labor and hands that have to go into like building your home if it's oak in comparison to something else, because it's heavy, and you need some strong individuals to make that happen and see it through. Like, all of this sounds super expensive to me, especially like if you're looking, it almost seems like we're comparing apples to oranges here, or like Prada to a Target purse or something like that. But like, surely this all sounds nice and it sounds pretty, but like, this has to be heck expensive. What does that look like as far as if I want an oak log home and I know that it's going to be cheaper to go down the pine route? What's the actual cost that we're looking at, or like maybe why is that cost worth it?
Well, the first thing that you said there is that a pine log home is going to cost less, and the fact is that it's not. Our oak logs are typically less expensive than most companies charge for their pine logs. So we compete against other log home companies across the nation all the time, and we are no more expensive to provide oak for your home than other companies would charge you for pine. And not only is it oak logs, but we also provide oak second-story floor beams. We provide oak trim for your doors and windows. We provide solid oak stairs. It's not just the logs that are oak, and we can still do it for typically less than what you're going to pay for pine someplace else.
Wow, and that's mostly due to the fact that Missouri is abundant, like you were saying, abundant in its oak growth, and as far as incoming, outgoing type of thing, right?
Yes, it is. It's abundance of oak, and it's where we live here, and also because we're very cost conscious people, and we like to keep our costs down, and we want to provide a good value to the customer, and we want something that people can afford. We love getting people in their homes, and we don't want to price it out of people's more than what they can afford to pay.
I'm sold. I think oak sounds like an amazing thing. At this point, I'm just wondering if Gastineau can't also make oak computers, because if so, sign me up, because I could be slinging graphics for you on a Monday morning with an oak computer out here. But yeah, that sounds terrific. So thanks for sharing that. I think a lot of people needed to know that, like why oak specifically in comparison to all of the others, especially because we do offer all 4 types, and I think that's cool for people to understand a little more about oak.
Well, like you said, these are legacy homes, and if you're going to build a legacy, it's got to last.
Yeah.
And it's got to be something that you're proud of. And when I started the company, I didn't name it Gastineau Log Homes because I was an ego trip for using my own name.
Let the record show what she just said. Just for everybody listening, she's not an egotistical person. This is not narcissism.
No, the reason is that I was very proud of my family name. I'm very proud of my family. And I knew that if I named the company Gastineau Log Homes, I would never do anything to disgrace the name.
Yeah.
So it was to hold my fingers to the fire and say, okay, you're going to have an honest business and you can produce a good product and give people give people value and be proud of the homes that you do, and we are. And so, but that was why I named it Gastineau Log Homes.
I love that. I mean, that's awesome. So it sounds like our process is easy. It sounds like if you want to look more further into this, all you have to do is pick up the phone and dial our headquarters. You can also visit us here. We're based off of I-70 right outside of Kingdom City. And yeah, thank you for sharing that with not just everybody else, but for me as a new guy. For those of you who are listening to this, I am the new Senior Marketing Director, aka Lead Brand Architect. My name is Ben Poe, and I am learning just like everyone else is about this awesome product that we sell here at Gastineau. So thank you, Lynn. Appreciate you.
And don't forget to check out our website, oakloghome.com. Really easy. You don't have to spell Gastineau. Just oakloghome.com.